Before all-seater stadiums and corporate boxes, these were the football cathedrals every fan visited. Now they're just memories. 1. Highbury, Arsenal. Let's start with one of the most iconic, Highbury. Arsenal's home for 93 years. Highbury was more than just a stadium. It was a work of art. The Art Deco East and West stands, the marble halls, the famous North Bank. Every corner oozed history. The pitch was tight, the atmosphere electric, and the walk through the narrow streets of Islington on match day was a ritual for generations. When Arsenal moved to the Emirates in 2006, Highbury was converted into flats, but for those who stood on the North Bank, nothing will ever replace the magic of a night under the floodlights at Highbury. 2. The old Wembley Stadium. The Twin Towers of Wembley were the backdrop to some of the greatest moments in English football. From the 1966 World Cup final, countless FA Cup finals, England internationals and epic playoff deciders, the old Wembley was the dream destination for every fan and player. The walk up Wembley Way, the roar as the teams emerged, the sense of occasion, nothing else came close. Demolished in 2003 to make way for the new arch, the old Wembley lives on in the memories of those who saw the magic for themselves. 3. Main Road, Manchester City. Known as the Wembley of the North, Main Road was Manchester City's home from 1923 to 2003. With its vast Kippax stand and unique sprawling layout, Main Road was a ground like no other. The atmosphere was raw, terraces packed, and the noise deafening. City fans still talk about the Main Road massacre, the 5-1 win over United, and the bittersweet farewell when the club moved to the City of Manchester Stadium. The old ground is now a housing estate, but for City fans, Main Road will always be home. 4. The Dell, Southampton. The Dell was quirky, compact, and utterly unique, with its odd-shaped stands, tight pitch, and floodlights that seemed to lean over the action. It was a ground that gave Southampton a real home advantage. The crowd was right on top of the players, and the noise could be deafening. The Dell saw some of the greatest players in Saints history, from Mick Channon to Matt Le Tissier. When Southampton moved to St Mary's in 2001, the Dell was demolished, but its memory lives on in every Saints fan's heart. 5. Roker Park, Sunderland. If you ever experienced the Roker roar, you'll never forget it. Roker Park was Sunderland's home for 99 years, a classic northern ground with terraces that shook when the crowd got going. The Fulwell End was legendary, and the atmosphere on Derby Day was second to none. Roker Park closed in 1997, replaced by the Stadium of Light, but for many, the soul of Sunderland football stayed behind in the old ground. 6. Ayresome Park, Middlesbrough. Ayresome Park was Middlesbrough's home from 1903 to 1995, a ground with a rich history and a passionate following. The Holgate End was the place to be, and the noise when Boro scored was something else. Ayresome Park hosted World Cup games in 1966 and saw the club through good times and bad. When Boro moved to the Riverside, Ayresome Park was demolished, but the gates were saved and now stand outside the new stadium, a link to the past that every fan treasures. 7. Burnden Park, Bolton Wanderers. Burnden Park was a ground full of character, with its vast terraces and old-school charm. It was the scene of triumph and tragedy, including the 1946 disaster that claimed 33 lives. For decades, it was the heart of Bolton football, a place where generations of fans stood shoulder to shoulder. Burnden Park closed in 1997, replaced by the Reebok, now University of Bolton Stadium, but the memories of the old ground live on. 8. Baseball Ground, Derby County. The baseball ground was Derby County's home for over a century, a muddy, atmospheric ground with a unique shape and a reputation for being a fortress. The pitch was notorious for its poor condition, especially in winter, but that only added to the sense of occasion. The baseball ground saw Derby's greatest days under Brian Clough and Dave Mackay, including 2 league titles. It closed in 1997, replaced by Pride Park, but for Rams fans, the baseball ground was where legends were made. 9. Boothferry Park, Hull City. Boothferry Park was Hull City's home from 1946 to 2002, a ground known for its railway platform and passionate support. The ground had a unique character, with its Boothferry Halt train stop and the famous Best Stand. Boothferry Park saw highs and lows, from promotion pushes to financial crises, but it was always home. The ground was demolished in 2011, but the memories remain. 10. Victoria Victoria Ground, Stoke City. The Victoria Ground was one of the oldest Football League grounds, home to Stoke City from 1878 to 1997. The Bootham End was legendary, and the ground was famous for its intimidating atmosphere and swirling winds. The Victoria Ground saw Stanley Matthews, Gordon Banks, and countless other legends. When Stoke moved to the Britannia, now Bet365 Stadium, the old ground was demolished, but the spirit of the Victoria Ground lives on in every Potters fan. 11. White Hart Lane, Tottenham Hotspur. White Hart Lane was more than just a stadium. It was the beating heart of Tottenham Hotspur. From the famous Shelf to the Park Lane end, every part of the ground had its own character. European nights under the lights, North London derbies, and the roar of the crowd, White Hart Lane was a fortress. The ground closed in 2017, replaced by the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But for Spurs fans, the lane will always be home. 12. Boleyn Ground, Upton Park, West Ham United. The Boleyn Ground, better known as Upton Park, was the heart of East London football. With its tight pitch, raucous crowd, and legendary chicken run stand, it was a ground that intimidated opponents and inspired the Hammers. The walk down Green Street, the smell of fried onions, the sound of "I'm forever blowing bubbles." It was all part of the matchday ritual. Upton Park closed in 2016, replaced by the London Stadium. But for West Ham fans, nothing will ever match the magic of a Saturday at the Boleyn. 13. Filbert Street, Leicester City. Filbert Street was Leicester City's home for 111 years, a ground with a unique character and a loyal following. The double-decker stand, the Filbert Street end, and the tight, intimidating pitch made it a tough place for visiting teams. Filbert Street saw promotions, relegations, and cup runs, and every Leicester fan has a story from the old ground. It closed in 2002, replaced by the King Power Stadium, but the memories remain. 14. Elm Park, Reading. Elm Park was Reading's home from 1896 to 1998, a much-loved ground with a loyal following. The South Bank Terrace, the rickety stands, and the close-knit atmosphere made it a special place. Elm Park saw the club through good times and bad, and every Royals fan has a favourite memory from the old ground. It was replaced by the Madejski Stadium, but Elm Park will always be part of Reading's history. 15. Goldstone Ground, Brighton and Hove Albion. The Goldstone Ground was Brighton's home for 95 years, a ground with a turbulent history and a passionate following. The North Stand was the place to be, and the atmosphere on match day was electric. The Goldstone saw promotions, relegations, and the fight to save the club in the 1990s. It was demolished in 1997, and Brighton spent years in exile before moving to the Amex. But the Goldstone will always be remembered by Seagulls fans. These grounds weren't just places to watch football, they were the heart and soul of their communities. They were where families gathered, friendships were forged, and legends were made. The smell of the terraces, the roar of the crowd, the walk to the ground with your dad or your mates, these are memories that no modern stadium can replace. All-seater stadiums, corporate boxes, and modern comforts have changed the matchday experience forever. But for those who stood on the North Bank, the Kippax, or the Bootham End, the old grounds will always be home. They were cold, they were cramped, and sometimes they were falling apart, but they were ours. Which lost ground do you miss the most? And what's your favourite memory from the terraces? Share your stories below, because some places are too special to ever be forgotten.